There is a lot of stress that we undergo.
Everything is going well, but somewhere inside I feel something is stopping me and I'm feeling bad about I don't know what.
What sort of a message is media sending?
And this one movie will just destroy
Everything goes down the drain. Yeah, I don't want to stop. I want to keep moving.
Hello everyone. Here's your own edupreneur, Dr. Surya Kumari here with yet another edition of my favorite podcast, I Heal Unto You. This podcast brings about people from various genres of life, various professions, I would say, who are here to converse with me on coping strategies and coping mechanisms. Practice what you preach, be the change that you want to see. Oft repeated statements that we see in various speeches, people say this like that. But when life hits you in the face and the world watches, these statements are perhaps very cruel. Trained in the UK, US, Prague, with over 40 years of experience now, then a young administrator and grief counselor was able to actually be the change by practicing what she preached. Ably supported by her wonderful family, she just did not walk the talk, she walked the walk. Losing her 19-year-old to an accident, donating his organs, eh, zindagi is all that one can say. Being strong when vulnerable is perhaps who she is. The amount of grief and pain that she carries while carrying on with the organ donation cause, who other apt person to share views on coping strategies and mechanisms? Let's meet Lalita Raghuram, Country Director, Mohan Foundation. Welcome, Lalita, to I Heal Unto You.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Surya Kumari. It's such a pleasure being here.
Yes, thank you so much for coming, and it's an honor that we are conversing today. And as most of you know, Mohan Foundation, the multi organ harvesting aid network that trains transplant coordinators and aids in organ donation. I and Lalita have been together for more than 15-20 years, and I came on to organ donation just as I was looking for some social cause to present for my students. And in the newspapers, I saw something about an organ being transported from one hospital to another hospital. They had something like a green channel. This was fascinating for me, and I looked it up, and that's how I bumped into organ donation. And I'm still here with them as one of their faculty. I take communication skills and soft skills for them, and I'm also one of the expert member in the curriculum as the part of the National Skills Council. And moving on today, let's first introduce about what is grief counseling all about, and over to you, ma'am.
What we actually do is comforting and providing a lot of support to the family. In that hour of grief, when they are, suffering the loss of their loved one, all that we do is being available for them. There are several families that go off. We had a 9-year-old boy. His name is Aditya Kaushik. And his mother used to say, my son used to recite Hanuman Chalisa at the age of 3 and 8. He used to be so good. He's such a good singer. He used to excel in his studies. So it's a lot of patience and perseverance that is required in that hour. We just keep talking to them about their loved one. They go back into the memories. At that time, we just hear out to them. So they're completely hassled, they're completely tired and withered. At that time, all that we do is provide them comfort, give them a room, get them water, give them tea, give them food, give them a clean bed to sleep. They talk a lot. And it requires a lot of patience and attention to listen to them. Our ultimate goal is not organ donation. Our goal is to provide them comfort.
Exactly.
We call it in our grief counseling parlance, developing rapport and providing support. So this is what is required in the initial stages. We may work for the organs to be donated by the family member, but our initial goal is always to provide support. Different families react differently. Some of them, they will be in complete denial. They cannot accept death. And sometimes they are angry. Either they are angry on the hospital or they are angry on the person that is brain dead.
Oh.
Or sometimes they are angry on the person saying, I always insist on wearing a helmet. This fellow didn't wear a helmet. So anger can manifest in so many different ways. So at that time, we just listen to them. Sometimes the touch has a healing effect. So I hold their hand. So they like to be held. For a long time, they just keep holding my hand. They like it. If they have not accepted that, where is the question of talking about organ donation? In some cases, if the doctor has given them information periodically that their loved one is going down the slope, they are not doing well, and the diagnosis and the prognosis looks poor, then their acceptance could be much faster because they are mentally prepared for the worst. But in some cases, it takes anywhere between 24 to 48 hours for the families to come to terms, that their loved one is actually no more. So until then, it requires a lot of patience to be with the family and just to for them to feel that we are available for them. That comfort is what is required at that time of grief. The degree of grief varies. If it's an older gentleman, the grief may be less. And depending upon the relationship also, if it is your own mother, the grief will be different. If it is your own child, the grief is different. So with all of these things, we will have to work in such a way that we offer them support, always be available, and then slowly, once they have accepted, then we talk to them about organ donation. Even then, I will say, we know that your loved one is no more. But out of this also, something good can come out.
Yeah.
So they will say, what good? At that time, then I will slowly say, you can donate her eyes. Because eye donation has got greater acceptance.
Correct.
And if they say, okay, maybe, and then I will immediately say, you can donate organs also. There are a lot of children waiting for organs. You can donate kidneys, you can donate liver, you can donate heart. One person has the power to give the gift of life to at least 8 people. Just imagine. Your loved one is no more, but he has the power to give the gift of life to 8 people. 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line also, you can live in that gratification that your loved one is continuing to live on.
Yes.
So about it is what I say. So different families react differently.
So it's basically the counseling comes later. It is the making them accept the grief and being with them, holding their hand in the times of the immediate grief.
Yes.
As you said, prolonged illness, person is mentally sort of prepared.
Correct.
But accidental death or something like this, untoward, unexpected happens, it's very difficult.
Correct.
And task is to remain patient and be with them. At the same time, you are aware that time is ticking away and
Yes,
you need the time. Where is the organ going to? The matching and transport that takes a lot of time, and there's always that constriction of time. So,
absolutely. In the background, actually, about 150 people will be working for one donation to happen.
exactly.
And we would make at least 200 to 250 phone calls when the counseling is happening. Because 70% of the organ donors in our country are road traffic accident victims. Can you imagine? They're all below the age of 45. And these are all medico legal cases.
Yeah.
And when medico legal cases happen, obviously, post-mortem, you have to inform the police, you have to talk to the forensic doctors.
When these 120, 250 are happening, like logistics are happening and the medical legal things are happening, how are you handling it? As the counselor, as the coordinator, you need to be so patient, and how does it affect you?
As a counselor, it does affect you
Yeah,
because you are seeing death in close quarters.
exactly.
You are seeing people crying all the time. They are in deep grief. So even after you go home, you keep thinking about that. But the one good thing about this profession is when the donation happens, immediately those organs are used for patients who are waiting for years together in expectation of a donor organ. When they get an organ, imagine their life changes completely.
Exactly.
And it's not just their own life, it's the family. The entire family's life is transformed.
Life.
While on one hand, you are dealing with the grief of the donor family, you are also dealing with a certain amount of gratification that you have acted as a catalyst in giving the gift of life to so many people.
Yes.
So that's what keeps us going. There is no doubt that there is a lot of stress that we undergo.
So here I would say that uh, this is what it really means when we say carry others' pain while holding on to your own,
Yeah.
or holding your own together and know
Yes,
your pain, whereas you know everyone's pain. So I guess
absolutely.
ultimate definition of a counselor or a coordinator
Yeah.
or anyone who's working in this kind of a emotionally and mentally demanding, shall I say, job profile. Which aspect of this whole process has actually affected your emotional and psychological well-being?
The coordination bit is definitely very, very difficult and extremely challenging because you have to ensure that the organs are allocated on time. And we would have promised to the donor family that we will give the body at 5 a.m. in the morning. If the
Exactly.
organ retrieval itself takes time and it is delayed, you have to face the music from the donor family. The donor family, as it is, their act of generosity is immeasurable. One is they are suffering the loss of their loved one. Two is they are saying yes to donation, and they are saying yes to donation of organs. They don't even know where the organs are going, isn't it?
True.
They don't know where the organs are going, but still they are saying yes to donation. And all that we can do is to give them the body on time. That's the only promise that they are expecting us to keep. And if that itself we are not able to do, they sometimes are extremely unhappy. So that gives us a lot of stress.
So your main cause for emotional stress would always be the promise you gave.
Correct.
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 So you were talking about the system, and someone may not cooperate. There are so many cogs in the wheel, and some
Yes.
cog will go. It doesn't happen, and there's always a rush of time. You're always pushed against time.
It's never a well-oiled, system.
At the same time, can you think of ethical dilemma that adds to your emotional burden?
You're working in a government hospital, you have a very poor, very economically underprivileged family. who are illiterate. It's amazing that these families say yes to donation within half an hour. They consent immediately. We all think that you need to be educated to donate organs. It completely beats me that, the most uneducated, the people who have no idea about brain death, no idea about organ donation, have automatically, when they comprehend that we are doing good work, automatically consent to organ donation spontaneously. And it is going to, let's say, a higher middle class or a richer person. At that time, I feel here there is a family that is suffering, economically underprivileged, and the organ is going to somebody who is well to do. But we can't do anything about this. That patient cannot help this patient, this family,
Even
because the law does not allow any commercial dealings.
Plus, I think the identity also should not be revealed.
Absolutely. The donor family does not know who the recipient is, and the recipient does not know who the donor family is. This the information is kept absolutely confidential.
Correct.
So as a result of this, you feel that we are unable to help this family. But the law is law.
And it is
the very purpose of Transplantation of Human Organs Act is to prevent any commercial dealings. And this is donation, not selling.
Exactly. Does not remain a donation then.
Correct. Where do you draw the line? And donation is such a huge act of generosity. You cannot put a price tag for that, isn't it?
Yes. Ma'am, here I also wanted to give you an example of something that actually happened. So in one of the universities that I used to teach, so I was trying to organize a organ donation awareness lecture and also stem cell therapy, and that was just coming up at that time. So you can enter your, what can I say, your DNA or something for this whole registry that they were creating. So we had a meeting of all the senior professors and along with that person who came from that organization. And this point that I want to tell here is about educated people. So everyone is a PhD or, all educated people, the dean, registrar, everyone was there in the meeting. And this very senior professor said, if I donate, if I pledge my organ or pledge this, give my name for stem cell registration and all that, when I need and when I require a need, if it comes to me, will you give me first preference?
So education has nothing to do with donation. For donation, all that you need is a large heart.
Correct. Dil dekhe dekho. Honest question. Do you ever feel that I need help? I'm going through terrible times. I'm doing well. I'm working well. Everything is going well. But somewhere inside, I feel something is stopping me and I'm feeling bad about, I don't know what. Do you feel comfortable as a counselor, as a coordinator, to ask for help?
Asking for help, it doesn't, for me personally, it doesn't come naturally. But let me tell you one thing. I never cried loudly and, like the way people would fall on the body and cry. I never did that. And then I started doing one thing. If I say, why me, why me, why me, I will only keep crying. But if I converted my grief into something good for the others, I can simply move forward. I should not look back at what I have gone through. So I chose the latter. So I just moved forward. I never thought about what I lost. And that is perhaps the reason that, I went through some health issues. I developed psoriasis within 10 months. I suffered psoriasis for 10 years. In fact, 15 years, I would say. I tried all medicines, wouldn't go. And then I lost a lot of hair. some amount of memory also I lost. But then one thing, spirituality, I always, to forget my grief, I started learning music. I used to sing. So I started refreshing those lessons, and then I started taking singing class, Carnatic music classes. So I found solace in such things. And I found solace in work. Even now, I find solace in work. I don't want to stop. I want to keep moving because I always feel this expertise and this experience that I have is helping so many people. So I shouldn't stop doing this. As long as I can, I should do this.
Yes.
So, yes, I have had my lows, but I converted it into positive things for the others. That's where I find happiness.
Correct. So it is like instead of going the professional counselor, you became your own counselor and you found your own methods.
Yeah.
And instead of denying the grief, you accepted the grief and you unknowingly to yourself, you started seeking methods of healing yourself.
Yeah.
With respect to work or with respect to music or spirituality or talking about other things and thinking about how God made you a messenger. But do you think there is any kind of stigma for a counselor to go take counseling?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any stigma, but I think counselors tend to think they don't need counseling.
Okay.
When we also do sessions on burnout, I find, counselors, when we tell them that if you have any difficulty, you can always come to us. We have not had many people come forward and seek help. So perhaps they think they don't need help.
Or do they think?
Off late, there are a lot of sessions on burnout, and that's something that everyone is very conscious about. But from our own counselors, I don't think we have had many wanting, seeking help.
Okay.
So I don't know. Probably they think they don't need it.
We also hesitate a lot to seek help, though we may know it, because I don't think that has come into acceptance in our country among now. You have corporates which have a counseling section. They have mandatory counseling yearly or every periodically. You have schools also with counseling. But people who are not in those two sectors, education for students and employees only in certain corporate sectors, everyone else, a family person, I don't think they accept or they immediately think there's something mentally wrong with me that I need to go for counseling. So that a hidden, unmentioned stigma is still there. Counselor themselves think that. I think that is a bigger problem that we have to solve.
Perhaps so, yes.
Exactly. And at Mohan Foundation specifically, do we have any kind of a method or do we have a system that periodically all employees have to go for counseling, whether they say yes or not? There are many people who know that they need help, but they wouldn't admit, they wouldn't want to, and they may not know the resources how to counsel themselves.
Yeah.
You fortunate and you're well aware, so you are able to do it for yourself, find methods. I guess that also comes with age. So younger people may not, maybe confuse themselves and
Yeah.
they may think it something beneath their profession. They may think they may be seen professionally incompetent if they themselves need counseling. How do you think? What is your idea? How do you think this can be
So
solved?
there are two at the foundation. There are two ways that we deal with this. One is when there is a younger colleague that requires support in the form of counseling. Because of our experience, we try, number one, to talk to them confidentially and from time to time provide them support. That's an ongoing thing. That's in the ethos of the foundation. So we do that. But the second thing that we also do is if we find that they need counseling support, external support, we do send them for to counselors outside. There are organizations that deal with such issues. We do refer them there. And in fact, if they have to go for those counseling sessions during office hours, we encourage them to go there.
Okay.
We want to monitor them. We want to ensure that they feel better. So because we are in this sector, we understand mental wellness is so important.
Okay.
So we do encourage them. We do refer them to external agencies so that they feel better. We monitor them. We ask them if they need any more guidance. So that's something that we do on an ongoing basis.
Okay. So, do you think, like I started this as with introducing you as be the change you want to see, which you have always been. So, what is this change that you want to bring about in the life of counselors within Mohan Foundation as a system?
Just like the schools and corporates having counselors, we need to have somebody, on call or is available for counseling for any of our team members. In fact, in addition to Mohan Foundation, we have a national body which is not part of Mohan Foundation, but we started because we are into training transplant coordinators. We have a national body called NATCO, Network and Alliance of Transplant Coordinators. So we have more than 500 transplant coordinators across the country as its members. So every 45 days we do master classes for NATCO members and Mohan Foundation. We also do physical master classes in different locations. Every year we do an annual conference. And as part of this annual conference, we invite experts to come and share their experiences. And of course, our own transplant coordinators also present papers. So perhaps, in the next conference, we should bring about this as a topic for counselors, for the transplant coordinators to seek help.
Exactly. We always have this concept of train the trainer.
Yeah.
So you could have something like that where the counselor also requires counseling. So you could make Mohan Foundation themselves bring about a snazzy slogan for that, and then we can. And you could perhaps set an example for the whole country.
Yeah.
This is what we do for counsel. And the Counselor Federation should take it up. So
I will definitely need your help there in how to go about with seeking help. What are the channels available? How do we go about with that? Perhaps we could have a dialogue with them and seek how do we actually have this formal help available for us.
Yes.
These are the things where I will need your help, and if that is made available not only for our transplant coordinators but for NATCO members also, that will be a very big help for us.
Correct. We should. Yes. In fact, I still remember the days when I first came to Mohan Foundation. I was the one who designed the curriculum for soft skills, communication skills, and HROB.
Correct.
And that's what's happening everywhere, that we somehow bring down the life skills and communication skills. Even from school level, I think we should have life skills and communication skills as compulsory subjects and give importance. In fact, now whatever number of sessions I get in Mohan Foundation, somehow or the other I bring in the resilience part. That will be there for sure. Because that is most important for counselors, coordinators a lot.
Absolutely.
Balancing life and the work is a definition that is applicable to everyone. But in certain professions, it is even more important. Okay.
Correct. Grief counseling is an area that is going through a lot of change, and organ donation is a niche area. In our country, we are still in our infancy, or you could say adolescence. There's a lot of change that is happening in the healthcare scenario. So there is a need for more and more counselors to be resilient, be available, so that we are able to save more lives, that are for the patients that are waiting for an organ. So we
Correct.
definitely need to make more formal associations, formal collaborations with organizations such as the Counselors Association.
Yeah. So this purpose of this podcast itself is that where I wanted to create awareness first of all about stress and burnout. Stress and burnout. Everyone says that, but how do you cope? Do all of us have to go for professional counseling, or can we find methods ourselves?
Hmm.
So the first segment of this podcast is all about versatile voices, where each of them tell about how they cope, and they're able to cope, and they're able to come out of situations that are really emotionally overwhelming or exhaustion.
Hmm.
So I wanted to bring in awareness using media. At the same time, I also have to mention that previously I have seen that media is misusing sometimes. Like if I can even name, actor Madhavan was an ambassador for organ donation, from
Yes,
one of the initial ambassadors.
correct.
But strangely, he acted in a web series where he was
Correct.
uh,
Yes.
uh, doing
Agreed.
criminal activities. So, where then the very purpose of media is being destroyed in a negative way? Can
Correct.
trust the media? The way we are seeing in films. Akshay Kumar acted in a film where he brings terrorists back to India, saying that he's going for organ transplant or something. So the people are using the word left, right, center in a wrong connotation, which I guess we have to highlight and make the media responsible, because there are
In
many.
fact, one of the things that is very commonly used is, oh, I have to sell my kidney if I have to afford this.
Exactly. These are
Why bring a kidney? Why selling? We are all talking about ethical organ donation here, and you're talking about selling a kidney.
yeah, true.
What sort of a message is media sending?
And this one movie will just destroy everything.
Everything goes down the drain.
So why can't we have a law that prevents people, media, movies, especially from misusing these kind of things? And why are they not taken to justice?
Yeah.
It was pleasure meeting you, and
Thank you.
it was a huge learning, I would say. And I'm really honored and very happy that you spared so much time to talk to us. And we came to know of so many other things, that a counselor goes through pain, and how the counselor revives, self motivates herself, and the load remains invisible. You're
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Through you, the message about organ donation and the work of the transplant coordinators is getting highlighted. What they go through in a day, all of these things, are getting the required spotlight. So thank you so much for this podcast, and wish you all the very best, Andy.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much.